Well, we are trying to go live. There's Derek Poole. You took a
Got
moment
me?
to come in. I do have you
Y-
now. Thought for a second that I'd be going live without you. All I saw was a black screen. I could hear you in the background, but all I
Uh,
saw was a black screen. But we are
there's
now
plenty of
going
people.
out to the world for training talk. What is it, Thursday?
Yep.
And it's April 11th. Talking about perception is reality. Should be a good show tonight. There's a lot that goes into this. It's one of these topics I think we could probably talk on for hours and hours and hours, but y'all would probably get bored eventually. So we'll do our best to keep it within a manageable time. But as we get going tonight, let us know that you can hear us, please. I've already had some technical difficulties coming into the show. So please drop us a comment on where you're listening from, that we're coming through just fine, that you can hear us, and all of that good stuff. Tonight's show is brought to you by Primary Arms Online Store. If you haven't had a chance, be sure to check it out. I haven't looked at it tonight, but almost every single time I pull that up, they do have a coupon code for your at least your first time purchase, or something off of this, something off of that. But just about everything you could think about with firearms and accessories you can find from Primary Arms Online. So we certainly thank them for making the show possible tonight. You may have noticed that we did not go live in March. We had some difficulties with streaming. Apparently, Deryck held something that was shaped like a banana that maybe we talk about on the show that you're not allowed to hold onto the show. So it's always interesting playing by all of the rules with all of the platforms. But holding bananas during live shows is becoming more and more difficult to do. So we probably won't see us holding bananas tonight, but we're definitely going to talk about bananas. So we'll do our best to make sure the show is not cut off for those that are tuning in. Deryck, man, what's been happening?
Oh, not much, but you know what? I'm pretty sure it was the other bald guy at PDN that was holding a banana on a live stream.
That actually that's fair. That is very true. Uh, you got the show canceled. One of the nights they killed the stream. But you are right. You
Yes.
are definitely right. It was the other bald guy at PDN that was holding a banana during the live show and got us in trouble for it. So we kind of got.
Yeah, because you taught me after I got us cut off. You told me that night after we were done, you got us killed on one of the
Yeah,
platforms. And it wasn't even I wasn't holding even a full banana. I was only holding the lower part of the
that's
banana.
right. That's right. But the algorithms were able to pick up that it was a banana.
Yep. Because I still have that part of the banana sitting right here on my desk
Be
that I will
careful. Don't
leave
touch the
sitting on my
banana
desk.
tonight, Deryck. We don't want to get everybody in trouble.
Yeah, I know. We're just starting the training tour, right? We don't want to be off air for what, a
No
month
kidding. No kidding. So
in the doghouse.
let's see. We got Ground Fog over on YouTube is letting us know that he can hear us. So that's good. Did we just lose Deryck again? Are y'all seeing a black screen for Deryck? I feel like that's what I see coming over YouTube. And so that would not be good. There he comes in and out, maybe. So you're showing up currently. All right, man.
Okay. Well, while I'm showing up, training tour, right?
Yes.
Look at this. Look what I found. Look at this old boy.
Oh, I thought you were going to show a 2024. What year is that? That's old school.
Um, 2011.
2011. So
Yeah, I don't even think it doesn't even say training tour on here.
that was
No, it
before
doesn't.
it was officially the PDN training tour, right? I think
Yep.
that was, I can't remember what year that PDN adopted it officially as their tour, but it was, I think, sometime after that.
Yeah, I think it was 2013,
Yeah.
2013, 2014, something like that.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely so, man. Everything's been going well with you?
Yeah. Yeah, man. It's, had our crazy weather. It's like Louisiana and Florida, but it's like we're in training season for hurricane season.
Yeah, it's
Like,
definitely right. I don't know what happened. In fact, Tracy and the kids just came back from helping serve food at a community near us that was just like demolished, by the storms that came through yesterday. They're still, that was what was that yesterday, and then as of this evening, they still have 20 schools in my county or parish that I live in that will still not be open as of tomorrow. You know, some of them don't have power. There was physical damage and stuff, so it's kind of crazy. I was indoors all day, so didn't really pay much attention to it other than noticing all the heavy rain and stuff. But yeah, it was kind of nuts. I'm glad I'm glad it's gone. But man, hopefully that's not what hurricane season looks like. That was nuts.
Well, we got yours. Well, like what you had yesterday came our way today. They had some tornado warnings and stuff like that up Tampa way, so probably about 60 miles or so north of me. But I mean, we had the really bad rain and wind, like 50-mile-an-hour gusts down here, but it wasn't long.
Yeah, definitely.
So
Well, I'm glad it's going away, man. Talking about training talk in the PDN tour. What are some of the sponsors from the PDN tour this year?
a lot of repeats. We got next level training with the CERT pistols and all the stuff that they have. Delta Defense, which everybody might know them better as USCCA. Vault Tech, of course, is back. Canic is back. Nemo Arms is back. Cape Gunworks is back. So we'll be doing the like the one shot updates over there with their rapid fire radio. G Code Hosters, were they with us last year? I can't remember. I think they were. Yes, they were. Freedom Munition again, and then two new ones: High Vis, uh, in their sights, in their sighting systems, and then Sightmark, which does red dots and optics and stuff like that.
Yeah, definitely. It's awesome to have all of the same sponsors coming back. I know plenty of our viewers use a lot of these products and really, put them to put them to hard use. I know that I have, in the past several years. Like you said, Sightmark and High-Vis are new to the training tour this year. They both are obviously big names. They've been around a while. I currently am looking forward to getting one of the Sightmark optics, on a firearm to kind of do some testing with it, over the next several months with students and whatnot. So I'll either throw it on a carry gun or throw it on a student loaner gun and kind of get some high round count with it. But yeah, definitely looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was like High Vis. I've been using their front sight, just their front sight, for the longest time because I think they make a fiber optic, fiber inserted front sight,
Yeah.
and you can change the color and stuff. But they made like a really really thin one for target shooting, which was great with just like a regular. Because I'm old school. I'm an antique. I like the just black plain rear sight notch with a really high vis front, and like high vis is in the name.
No, definitely.
You
And
know.
that's look. I think that the first time I ever put high vis sights on a gun, I mean, had to have been at least 10 years ago. That's the same thing. I prefer something bright across the front, something very dark across the back, as in really nothing. Kind of a dark shape, a black shape. Really
Yep.
don't like anything to grab a hold of my eyes' attention. Minus the front sight.
Yeah. What I liked about the high-vis sights, their front sight, a lot of companies, it'll be either fiber or some sort of tritium or something night sighty in the front.
Yep.
They'll have like two lines above the actual dot, whereas the high-vis is like the top. There's like very little edge above the fiber because under stress or when you're training and stuff, your tendency is to think of the top of that
Right.
circular
Definitely.
fiber or whatever is the top of the sight. So if it's not, you end up shooting stuff high. So, but with that one, with that very slight edge of metal sitting at the very top, it's the difference is negligible. So that's why I really like the high vis front sights.
Definitely. So if y'all that are viewing this video tonight, or even in the aftermath, if y'all are using some of these sponsored products, definitely let us know your thoughts on them. Has it been great? Has it been good? Has it been awesome? Have you shared them with others? All of that kind of good stuff. It's always good to hear from what others are experiencing with them as well. Well, tonight's topic is we kind of labeled it perception as reality, right? We've heard that term for years, we've used that term for years, but inside of the personal defense environment, it's almost like a foundation. It's almost like something that is very true in all kinds of different situations, right? Like I don't know, like if you've seen it in the news lately, but there's been this Apple River stabbing trial that's been going on over the past couple of weeks and kind of came to an end today. And when you look, and I watched several of the days of testimony and stuff. When you kind of look at it, dive into it, you start to come up with what you believe the outcome of the trial should be. Well, this jury came out with a very different outcome of what probably most other people would think when they would watch through this. But I think if you go back and look at the heart of this case or any other case, when you have the person that is claiming self-defense or protecting themselves in different situations, it's whatever their perception is, right? Their perception is their reality, and it may not come out to be factually prove correct on the back end of it, but it's a lot of it is what they believe in that moment. And we have to understand that sometimes our perception is not factually accurate. Sometimes it's flat out just wrong. And we need to make sure that we build the fact that it could be wrong, into our pre-planning, into our training, and all of that. So we're going to talk about a few different cases tonight where someone's perception, wasn't exactly, what it came out to be. And I was hoping to be able to play some videos tonight, but I've got two concerns with that. One is I don't want to get us booted off the show when any sort of banana-shaped object ends up flashing on the screen, and it'd be thought of by the algorithms that you and I are actually the ones holding the bananas, right? So I've got
Right.
that concern, with it as well. And then in some testing just now, when I had Deryck first come on, I also kind of ran into an issue of I'm not sure if the sound is coming through. But I definitely want to talk about, a couple of different situations. And if y'all are familiar with, different situations that are similar to this, be sure to, post them in the comments. It comes up, over time and time and time and time and time again, where, someone, believes they're protecting themselves, and who they're protecting themselves against is not actually, a threat or the threat. And a couple of ones that came to my mind earlier when I started to put together everything for the show is one, was a South Carolina father. South Carolina father, and I'll kind of just read some of the details. This was in Greenville, South Carolina. I think this was 2019. But basically, you had an adult daughter who came to visit her father. Right, she's coming to check on her dad, and let's see, he when she sat there and struggled to get the key in the door. She's sitting there dealing with it, trying to get the key in the door, and she's messing with it. And her dad, who's not expecting her, at least not expecting her at that point, believes that there's someone trying to get in the house. And you can imagine, right? He's in a panic. He's concerned. He's worried. He's kind of in a very tense situation, and he armed himself with a firearm. And he wasn't shooting through the door at that moment, but he was sitting there very near the front door with his firearm, thinking someone's getting ready to come through. So you can kind of imagine what's going through his mind at that moment. He's scared to death, and he thinks someone's getting ready to come through, and he's probably trying to figure out, do I shoot? Do I not shoot? When do I shoot? All of that kind of stuff. And ultimately, as the door finally opened, when the girl got the door open, the dad starts shooting, and he's shooting through and kind of at the door, thinking that it's the intruder, trying to come in the house. And it wasn't the intruder. And he ended up shooting and killing his adult daughter, who was just coming to check on him that day, right? And and these situations don't happen every day, but they're also not a complete anomaly either. And I think that when we think about home defense, this is definitely something that we have to build into our plan, right? Have you seen stories like that, Deryck?
Oh yeah, there's one very similar in Virginia, then another one in Virginia where it wasn't somebody that lived in the house. It was some college kid that was drunk going into the wrong house, thinking that he was at the right house.
Yeah, yeah, we had something
You know,
similar to that, back in like 2006 when you had a Japanese foreign exchange student who was going to a Halloween party and knocked on the wrong house, but they kind of knocked like, excited college kids may knock, and it freaked out the people who lived in the home, and they thought somebody was trying to break in. And when the homeowner went outside to investigate it, he's yelling at the guy to stop, but again, Japanese foreign exchange student, kind of a language barrier, and ended up shooting, and killing a college student, unarmed college student. Yeah, it's just, mistaken as a threat.
it just seems like so easy to prevent. Like some
Right.
like those especially. It's like, well, why didn't you yell at them? Like, do you not have a voice? Like, like say something instead of just going right
Well,
into shooting.
right. But when sometimes, the guy in the situation in Baton Rouge, right? He was yelling something. He was yelling, "Stop, stop, stop," or whatever that was, right? I mean, he was yelling, and that was part of his defense is that he was yelling, and the guy kept coming towards him, right? And that's, and I think part of this too, Derek, and give me your thoughts on this, right? But think about like auditory exclusion.
Yeah.
This is something, to me, when someone thinks someone's breaking into their house, especially in the context that, they're home alone or they're home with their kids, right? And it's very unexpected, like the 3 a.m. wake up call kind of a situation, and they think someone's trying to break in. I mean, auditory exclusion's a thing. And so you
Absolutely.
could have somebody yelling things, like, "Hey, it's your daughter," that kind of stuff that they may not be hearing. Or, it's the police, we have a warrant, all of that kind of stuff could be overlooked simply because of auditory exclusion.
Yeah. I but then there's also the one in Baton Rouge I'm not familiar with. Did he shoot her coming through the front door or did he shoot her coming into a bedroom?
So the
Into
Baton
his bedroom?
Rouge one, and again, this was years ago, like 1996 or something
Right.
like that, and it was a male college student. But he went out like the wife screamed to her husband that someone was trying to break in, and he armed himself with a gun and went out the carport door. So I think the
Uh,
guy knocked on the front door, but he went out the carport door to investigate as the kids were getting ready to get back in the car. And so when
uh,
they saw him, I think that he was going towards him like, "Hey, is this where the party is?" That kind of a situation. I'm sure there were cars all up and down the street, at the time. But he was going towards the homeowner, and the homeowner was scared, that he was coming to attack him. And again, his perception was flat out wrong, but he perceived
yeah.
his life was in extreme danger.
If you give yourself time and space, right, it gives you more time to to get actual factual information and not just jump off that perception. Like, why go outside? Like, right, like you're in your house, you have a locked door, they're banging on the locked door. Even if you even if you don't live in a state where you're required to retreat in your own home, why not retreat? Like, you and I, we're both highly trained. Like, I'm not afraid of somebody kicking in my front door if I can I'm pretty sure I can handle myself unless they come through the front door with a shotgun and just shoot me, right? But I'm still in, even knowing what I know, I'm backing up, I'm going in my bedroom, I'm locking doors, and I'm, if I really think it's a threat, I'm calling 911 and then sitting in my bedroom waiting for the last chance, because last thing I want to do is test out, is my personal defense insurance any good?
Right. And that's the part of building it into your pre-planning and training, right? And you got to account for the fact that you could be wrong. And, are you required to, leave your living room and go back to your back bedroom and put yourself behind more doors and call 911? No, it's not a requirement, but it's definitely a much better idea. It's much less risky that you're going to face the attacker, right?
Yeah.
And again, building in, like you said earlier, with communication.
Yeah.
There was another
I,
story. Go ahead.
no, I'm just thinking about, like, just think of it like if you're in your car and you're driving down the road and you're in the lane, you have the right of way. You're of the lane you're in, and the car to your right decides they're gonna pull in front of you, like hit you. Are you just gonna stay there in that lane and be like, "No, this is my lane," and like just take the hit? Or are you gonna slam on the brakes and then lay on the horn? Excuse me, or step on the gas to get clear and let them come over so they don't hit you? It's like,
Right.
You would do that in a car. Why would you not do that at home where life and death, like it's real life or death situations with you standing there with a gun?
And I
Like,
think it's because people don't under the risk, or the the increased risk or the danger is just not as obvious as it is, as the everyday driving situation. They've got so much more wisdom and experience with driving cars that they recognize that it makes a whole lot of sense to move away and try to negate getting into the vehicle accident, right? Whereas with the home defense, it's having an intruder break into your house, or having someone attack you is just not part of our everyday life. And so a lot of times, people, they just they haven't necessarily thought about it that much, haven't had it covered in a training class, or haven't had it covered in a training class in such a way that it sets them up, for success.
or they've been trained it, but they've been taught that, but they haven't trained it. Right? We're in cars all the time.
Right.
Right? For the most part, right? Like we say, Rob says, what automobile is like the ubiquitous thing, and we drive all the time. So unless you're a brand new driver, that's not the first time somebody's come into your lane. So you've trained these scenarios and how to what to execute in that instance. Hit the brake, hit the gas, something along those lines. And it's sort of like making the case for, okay, you go to a class and learn this stuff. Now you need to get out on the range and train it, or you need to sit down at the kitchen table with your family, lay down the plan, and then practice that plan that you've laid out.
No, I mean, definitely so. And it's another story I remember out of Ohio. If I remember correctly, the daughter was away, like at a sleepover or something like that, some slumber party or something. And I think this was Ohio, but she just wasn't having a good time, and she decided to come home, right? And mom and dad are home, they're in the bed, they're sleeping, and all of a sudden here's someone coming in. And so this isn't the going outside to investigate, but this is someone actually, in the house kind of thing, right? And dad grabs the gun to investigate, and sees the shadow coming from the garage, and ends up shooting the shadow, and ended up being his daughter, right? And shot and killed his daughter, right? And again, it's one, we talked about it, and you just talked about it. We need to train to not go towards that attacker, right? We need to be trying to get away from the threat, not putting ourselves in more danger. And there's going to be exceptions to that, right? And so, like, I don't expect someone who has kids in their home to
Right.
lock themselves in their bedroom and not put themselves in danger to be able to go rescue their children, right? And so that there are times that we have to put ourselves at more risk, but there's a motivation to be able to do so. But if we're
Right.
home alone, why put yourself in more risk? Why put yourself facing the threat? And
Yeah.
even then, could be negated with things like communication and a flashlight. And to me, and I know you teach the same thing, right? If you're staging a gun for home defense, you better be staging a flashlight with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really weird. Like even at its darkest, our house, you can still walk from the master bedroom all across the house to the guest bathroom and not need to turn on a light because there's just that much light in the house. Be it moonlight coming in through different windows, be it we got little like little traps, bug traps that have like little lights that are constantly glowing. So, I mean, if you don't have that kind of stuff, maybe, you set up little night lights throughout the house so you can actually see a little better if you have a house that's completely pitch black once you leave the bedroom.
Right. No, definitely so. Or, it's 2024, right? So you can automate your lighting. If you run an alarm system, most modern alarm systems, you can set up lighting in it and set up certain rules that, if the alarm is triggered, then automatically certain lights can be turned on, to illuminate certain areas, or to potentially, hopefully scare bad guys away, right? Not something we can depend on, but it's definitely something that can help. Maybe it's porch lights, outside lights that are turning on, and that's all beneficial.
Yeah. I, and like you were saying, like with kids, like I don't have kids, you do have kids, but like even if you were moving from your master bedroom to get over to where the boys are, I mean, I know y'all already have a plan. You're gonna get from where you were to where the boys are. You're not gonna linger in between because you think that door over there is opening. You're going straight to where the boys are to protect them as a last line of defense. right?
Right.
You're not going to like sit there and like all of a sudden hold your gun in the ready position, just pointing at this door that's just rattling when you could have like extra doors and layers of defense to protect you because you're the one with the gun. You're the one that's going to protect the family, right?
Right.
I, you know, we watch the news and maybe it's just because we do this for a living and we teach it for a living and we study it for a living that it seems almost like ridiculous. How could anybody even think this way? But news stories are out there to say, yep, it happens.
Yeah, and
And
we're going to talk about a big story, big national story that happened outside of the home here in a couple of minutes as well. One other story that came up in your home state, and I'm not sure what the outcome of this ended up being, but I remember it when it happened. It was in Florida, and what had happened was a husband, wife, pregnant wife, she's sleeping, he's sleeping, and in the middle of the night he hears something, right? He believes that that someone's broken into the house, and so he grabs his gun, to go investigate. And what he doesn't realize is he thinks his wife's in bed sleeping. And so when he sees the person, in the hallway, in the dark hallway, he shoots, and he shot and killed his pregnant wife. And I remember when this happened, it's all the officials really felt that this truly was an accident. It wasn't some husband trying to get away with murder or something. They really felt that this was somebody who truly felt that his own life was ruined because he accidentally killed his pregnant wife.
yeah,
And again, just very very avoidable.
that was over in Stewart. That was like straight across from us. I think it was like 3 or 4 years ago. He hit her with a headshot.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And look, I mean, it's again, they don't happen every day, but it's not an anomaly. These kind of incidents happen. I had a student a couple years ago that his boss shot his 14-year-old daughter in the head, thinking that she was an intruder. Thankfully, she survived it. I remember an NYPD cop shot a son climbing into a window, thinking it was an intruder when it was the son sneaking back into the house. It's I had a friend of mine. Went to his. He called his mom. He left his sunglasses over at his mom's house, and he's like, "Mom, I left my sunglasses there. I'm gonna come by later and get them." Well, later ended up being from, instead of coming over the afternoon daylight hours, he'd kind of gone out to a restaurant, stayed a little later or something, and hit his mom's house. It was like midnight or 1 o'clock in the morning or something. And so he goes to his mom's house. He's got a key, right? Goes in mom's house, grabs his sunglasses off the counter, and then is like, maybe I should tell mom, that I'm here. Right. And so she doesn't get scared. Well, mom sleeps upstairs. And so he goes to tell his mom that he's there. And, as he hits the stairs, he's got a red light like bouncing all over his body. Mom's got the handgun with the laser sight on it, literally pointing it, at her adult son. And thankfully, she did not shoot. But it's these kind of
yeah,
situations we have to build into our training.
yeah. Like the one over in Stewart, if I remember right, the guy had a flashlight attached to his handgun, and when the cops got there, he was outside with the other kid. Like the gun was sitting like near where he'd shot his wife and tried to render first aid with the gun on the ground, and the light was actually
Yeah,
on. The flashlight was
yeah,
on.
it is what I remember as well.
Yeah, that we've talked about flashlights and guns
No,
before.
definitely
So
so. And again, I don't know all the specifics on that case. It could have been that, that I don't know if he intentionally fired the shot or unintentionally fired the shot, but regardless, it happened. It
yeah,
definitely happened, and as a result, his he killed his pregnant wife. Right? I can't imagine having to deal with that psychologically.
yeah. I didn't hear any more about it. Like I remember he was not arrested. I don't believe, but it was like they never released names and stuff because we have Marcy's Law down here.
Hmm.
Um, and then we never really heard it. I never really heard anything more about it. But like according to the police statement, I remember was it seems like it was purely an accident, but they were still investigating it as uh, suspicious death.
Right.
But after that, we didn't hear. I didn't hear anything more
Yeah.
about it.
Now I have to look back into it. Um,
Okay.
so I mean, those are all home defense situations, and but it's not all just home defense. It can happen in a public environment as well. I remember this has probably happened, a few times over the years, and it's not always involving law enforcement. But I remember a big one. I think it was 2021, maybe November 2021. It could have been November 2022, but I do feel like it was in the fall where an active shooter decided, a guy, decided that like, hey, I think his manifesto showed this, but hey, I want to kill some police officers, and so today's going to be the day, right? So he grabs his gun, grabs his ammo, shows up to downtown Colorado Springs, gets out of his truck, with a shotgun, goes up behind a police officer and kind of yells at the police officer. And as the police officer turns, he hits him with a shotgun, kills him. I mean, the officer never even stood a chance of being able to get a gun out of the holster. Well, you had a good Samaritan who witnessed this situation. And the good Samaritan is like, he wants to stop this guy from killing other people, right? And he witnesses after this guy murders a police officer. The guy goes back to his truck. He exchanged the shotgun for an AR-15 and then starts walking towards other people, right? So the good Samaritan, concerned about the safety of everybody there, shoots and kills, the attacker. And, there was a huge success in the fact that within seconds, this attacker was stopped by a good Samaritan. Well, and this is the one that the Good Samaritan, unfortunately, believed that he needed to secure the gun, right? And so he goes over to the attacker and picks up the rifle. And as he's picking up the rifle, you've got other officers responding to a police officer being murdered, right? And so you've got an officer down call, active shooter. You can imagine the officers that are coming there and their perception, right? And they're looking for the killer. They've got numerous 911 calls, I'm sure, and they're looking for the guy with the gun. And they see the good Samaritan pick up the AR-15 and believe that he's the shooter, and end up, unfortunately, he was shot and killed by one of the responding officers. And, the officer was operating off of the best information he has, but, his perception was his reality, but his perception was also wrong. And he shot and killed the innocent person. And, and that is a risk, right? Especially with any type of active shooter situation. I remember it was Uvalde, the initial officer on scene with Uvalde. They had gotten, I believe, a description of the shooter was dressed in black, and all of a sudden, one of the responding officers with his AR-15 is watching this guy in all black, and he's looking at him through the optic on the rifle, asking permission from his sergeant to shoot him. And the permission didn't come fast enough, and he was the window of opportunity closed. But who he almost shot and killed, potentially was the coach. Mistaken identity, right? And so this kind of stuff comes up more often, I think, than a lot of people realize, in the public environment when we talk about active shooter response, because there's just so much chaos. And you're especially from the law enforcement side, you were asking officers to intentionally put their life in danger and go find the guy who's murdering people, right? And so in these types of situations, you can imagine, what they're going through, as they're putting themselves into these situations, and they're looking for the guy with a gun with instructions on stopping the guy with a gun. Well, everybody who's got a gun that's not wearing a uniform, the risk is not zero, right? It's greater than zero, whatever that is, that the officer could make the mistake and shoot the wrong person.
Yeah. You know, but once again, it comes down to training, and getting like running the scenarios of what ifs in your head, and we talk about that one too. You have no duty to render aid, do not approach the suspect, like all those things we tell you know, our non-law enforcement students, you know, and you have to think about it and be ready to execute the plan. Yep. Yeah. It's bring it. No, I was gonna say, all right, we get ready to bring on the big one. No. Yeah. Yeah.
did not hit him, in that situation, but they definitely acted on their perception. Him thinking that he was shot, and she thinking that he was shot as well and that he needed help, right? Well, he doesn't have a job anymore at the police department. She, however, does.
Yeah, he resigned. He's
Yep.
actually lucky that he didn't get hit by her. Like, because I can't see her video. I'm just going off of my
Yeah.
memory. And they showed both the different body cam angles, and I don't know if you were playing both or not, but the it the one body cam of his partner, the female, she's standing there with the girlfriend with the paper, and the shooting starts, and she goes running like past the car, and is like at this angle of the cruiser where the suspect's handcuffed, and she starts shooting, and the guy that the officer said he was hit is like at not an angle where I'd want somebody shooting in my direction. Like, because like yeah, it, you know, now, did the acorn hit him, or did it hit the car, or did multiple acorns fall and one hit him and one hit the car? That was what I was never clear about. Like, because witnesses I heard said they thought they heard what sounded like muffled gunshots. To me, that would be the acorn hitting the car. And the reason I say that is when I lived up in Maryland and I first bought my house, I lived out in the woods, and we had a walnut tree. And I didn't know that we had a walnut tree. Never paid much attention. It was on my neighbor's house, but overhung my driveway. And I was sitting in my living room watching TV, and I heard boom, boom, boom outside, and I'm just like, "What the heck was that?" But I never thought gunfire. And I was like sitting there, I'm like, "Huh." Sitting there watching TV somewhere. I thought swore I heard it again, and I'm like, "What the heck is that racket?" And like I lived on 3 acres, so neighbors weren't real close. So I walk out the front porch, and I'm sort of standing there. And then I hear the bang, bang, and I was like, "What in the heck is that?" And then it happened and hit the driveway, and a very distinctive different sound from walnuts bouncing off the roof of my pickup truck to in the bed of the truck to hitting the concrete, and I'm like, "Oh my god." So, like, I can get where an acorn hitting a car would sort of, like, might sound, kinda like gunfire if you don't know gunfire, like to the average person walking down the street. But never once did I think that was gunfire when those walnuts are hitting my truck. Um, but now, the same house, I got hit with one, and I swear I got pretty much like buckled and a walnut's definitely bigger than an acorn, but I buckled when it hit me, and it hit me like in the shoulder collarbone area. Because that time of year, they would just come down out of nowhere. We just knew not to park our cars at that end of the driveway. So, I mean, if you got hit like, square in the middle of the head with an acorn, I could see like that makes you buckle a little bit. But I remember that. Right. Yep. No, you're missing verification of what actually is happening. You actually have to process the information and verify that was an actual gunshot at me. Like, yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how that guy in that car did not get hit. Because you and I both have run armed defense around vehicles where it's basically a science class, and like we shoot through the different panels on a car. We let the students shoot through the panels, see what happens to the bullets, see what happens to the glass. How does it deflect and rounds move based off of the type of glass it's hitting? Like you and I both know handguns against cars penetrate a whole lot better than like a 5.56 223 round does because you got more yaw and like more deflections happening with that boat tailed shape. Man, I don't know how that guy did not get hit. That was like right or hit the A pillar or hit the coming in. Well, let's see, coming in, it's gonna drop. So I'm sure that guy must have, like, balled I haven't seen his statement. He must have, like, been like, "Oh my god," and, like, balled up into it, made himself as small as humanly possible and gotten in the floorboards of that back of that cruiser. I know that's what I would have done. Oh my god. But hey, you know what? People make mistakes. It's a life or death situation. You don't expect it from a police officer. And if I remember right, because I read an article, I think it was on Police One, that both officer and partner were up to date on their training qualifications with firearms, and they were up to date with their qualifications on hand to hand stuff. So, you know, thankfully, neither one of them. Absolutely. Like if you're going to pull out a life or death tool, you better be darn sure that when you pull that trigger, it's justified and necessary. And I don't care if you're an armed professional or just the average person sitting at home that's you know exercising your Second Amendment right to own a firearm. It's part of the responsibility. So you can go to 100 training classes, but if you just go to 100 training classes over 3 years and never once bother to go out and keep training on your own, you could end up doing something really bad and put yourself in a really bad situation. And okay, you get off because of whatever the law is, whatever technicality, whatever. You still got to live with the fact that you took somebody else's life and the fact and all the baggage that comes along with that. So, I mean, personally, it's like the last possibility in my little arsenal of tools I have. And everybody that carries a gun should have feel the same way. Yeah, you know. That's why, it's not just about the gun. That's why we need to learn, you know, hand to hand stuff. We need to work on processing information, make sure we're doing training classes with our gun that require us to process information, solve problems before the shooting, before we do the shooting, and then after we're done with the shooting, continue to solve problems. Because if you do that, then you're like in the right mindset, you know. And then, you know, like we always say, you're more likely to need to use first aid than a firearm. So or hand to hand or something non-lethal, right? If you have something non-lethal, you can deploy that first, and then you just have to say, "Sorry, honey, I didn't mean to mace you," or "Sorry, honey, I didn't mean to tase you," or "Billy, that's why I always told you to let your mother and I know what's going on while you sit there writhing in pain from 20,000 volts." You know, but at least everybody learns a lesson, and nobody's ended up dead. You know. Yeah. What made me think of that was I saw you were on Trigger Pressers Union, and I was thinking about your taser class because one of the hosts, what Matt, you were in a taser certification with him, weren't you? Yeah. So it made me think of Ride the Lightning. Yeah.
The wrong thing there. But no, I mean, definitely so. So that's those of y'all that are watching tonight, we can't highlight enough to build this kind of stuff, into your home defense or into your public space, self-defense plan in your training, and making sure that that information processing is part of your training, part of your practice, and ideally put it into an experiential learning, along the way with, with things even like, training around scenarios or just miniature simulations and stuff. But information processing is very, very important.
Yeah, yeah. The more you train it, the more you put it in practice. You'll also find holes in your home defense plan. You'll find holes in like your knowledge. Like, oh, you know what? I forgot to do this. I didn't do that.
Yeah, that's one thing I
You
always
you get
try to
better.
drive people to. Oh, sorry, I didn't even talk over you.
No, go.
I was just saying, you kind of brought it up, is it'll highlight holes in your plan, right? Especially like home defense, tabletop that stuff. Try to figure out, well, if this happens, how would we respond, and start, just kind of running this little walkthroughs, and figure out where those holes are.
Yeah,
Those holes,
Cool.
could be, physical security flaws, or it could be something as simple as, oh, my flashlight doesn't work the way I thought it did, right?
Right. Yeah. Or oh, if I push the button, if I half push the button and then push the button, I'm looking at a strobe light. You know. Ask me how I know.
On a mirror.
Right?
Who's that
Yeah.
strobe? Who's strobing me?
Right. You know, learn your house. Walk around in the dark in your house. Look. Oh, you know what? This is like really low lighting. I might need to add some more light here. Maybe in the flash, maybe a night light, maybe motion activated night light.
I like those.
You know,
Definitely like the
yeah.
motion activated night lights.
Yeah, we got those like all through our house. They sit very dim, but the minute you like get within 5 feet, it like comes on to be a full night light.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, cool. Any final thoughts before we let everybody go tonight?
No, I think that's it. Like it's perfect time to put some of this in practice. PDN training tour time. Schedules up. There's people running around teaching all over the U.S. From hand to hand to I don't know if we have any knife this year. If Alessandra's on there, I'm sure
Yeah,
we must have some
sure,
knife
at least out
training.
on the West Coast.
Yeah. Handgun.
Yep.
Get a chance to play with a lot of cool stuff that our sponsors send out on the road with us.
Yeah.
Vet some new gear. If you're in the market for some you want thinking about maybe night sights or some optics, or you're looking at new holsters. Like the G Code holster is a great holster. Like I've the Phenom, I think, is the one that I
Yep.
have. Uh, but they were one of the first ones that came out with for the PD10, and I've been wearing that. And it works great on a full day of riding on my motorcycle to just regular old riding around in the car, sitting around the house, or walking around town. It's a really comfy holster that does a real good job of concealing the gun. So
Yeah. No, definitely.
definitely put them on my list of recommended CCW holsters. And I mean, they make they make all sorts of holsters, but like they have. I want to say they have level 2, level 3 holsters too. On top of that, at least I think they do. Like an XSR level 2 or something.
Yeah, I believe they do.
Yeah. So
Well, definitely. Well,
yeah.
thanks everybody for tuning in tonight. Obviously, a special thanks to Primary Arms Online, and of course our tour sponsors. Next Level Training with the CERT pistols, the training pistols, the inert training guns, got lasers. They work really well. I use them a lot. Delta Defense, that y'all know as USCCA, Voltec Safes, Canic, Nemo, Cape Gunworks, Rapid Fire Radio, G Code, as we were just talking about. Freedom Munitions. I've been shooting more and more of their ammunition with students over the past couple of years. Of course, and the new sponsors, High Vis Sights and Sightmark.
Yeah. Yeah, Freedom's good stuff, man. When I burned through all the Freedom that they sent out on the tour last year. Every class I was giving it to students, no
Yeah.
problems with it. So,
Yeah.
Freedom is You know, they make a really good product.
Definitely so. Well, awesome, Derek. I will see you next month. And thank y'all for tuning in tonight for Training Talk. Be sure to join us in May. Should be the first Thursday in May. So until then, y'all be sure to get out and train.